Welcome to the Leadership with Biana Kovic Show, and thank you for being with us. Our topic, leadership, focuses on leaders such as yourselves. We believe that leadership is a skill that can be learned through practice and awareness. It is our hope that our conversation will help you become more reflective when it comes to your own leadership practices and enable you to leave a positive legacy. Our very special guest is Kristy McCann Flynn, the founder and CEO of GoCoach. Kristy has 15 years of experience as a strategic human resource leader, change manager, and organizational development expert. She has served in senior leadership positions throughout her career, most notably with Pearson Education and Constant Contact. Kristy brings a big picture perspective and a hands-on tactical approach to her leadership that she's now bringing to life with GoCoach. Her goal has always been to help and educate others to meet their ultimate success. Kristy is now converting this energy into a company whose mission is to help and educate others to own their career. Kristy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Awesome. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you. So, Kristy, you are the founder and CEO of GoCoach. And I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about your company.
Sure. GoCoach at its core is a marketplace of coaches because coaching is a huge fractured market that we brought together. And we sell this marketplace of coaches into businesses, into consumers. The coaches are versatile in hard and soft skills and teach entry level to executive level. And so we have made coaching accessible and affordable for everyone so everybody can upskill their talent and own their career.
Nice. And why do you think the coaching is so important nowadays?
I think that coaching has always been important, but it's only been something that, limited people had access to. And we want to drive inclusivity and not exclusivity with it. And the cool thing about coaching is that it's personalized learning at scale. And so, that there's only so much that you're going to retain of a classroom, that you're going to retain from a blog post, that you're going to retain from a video. But when you're working with someone that has your best interest in mind on an individual level, and they know all aspects of you, of how you learn, how you digest different things, and how you can produce different things, it really becomes a really learning tool that's accessible, that's also an objective lens that can really get to a core of you to really get the talent that you have there out.
And how do you pick your coach? Because I've had many coaches myself, and I know that there has to be some chemistry between the coach and the client.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's why, one, we're a transparent marketplace. Nobody else is doing this. And so, anyone that comes in could, that there's certain different things that they are looking to get coached on, and we're able to capture that and, through data and analytics and technology. And then they get an assortment of coaches that would be best for them. And then they get to talk to them and pick which one they want to use.
So you basically run a matrix on someone, right? To just get a sense who they are, right?
Yeah, we're high touch. We use assessment tools and we use technology, but, we're also making sure that we're connecting with the coach to really understand their whole self so that we're essentially presenting them that the individuals that can really help them. And once they speak to a couple individuals, that communication and cadence and, where you feel a relationship can really brew really comes out because you can have the best coach in the world, but if you don't have a connection or a relationship with them, it's going to be really difficult to be able to get the learning that you need.
And from your perspective, how long would one need to have a coach to really see a progress?
I think it varies. I think that overall what I've seen and what I know works best is that you establish a relationship with the coach and you just start with the different things that you want to be able to learn near term, but then it really progresses into things that you want to evolve to long term. With the coaching that I've done as a former HR professional, I usually see engagements, go as long as 6 months where there's a real true value. But the thing is that you also have to be able to go it alone and see how much you have learned from your coach. And so I think that, working with the coach, at minimal 6 months is a really good starting point. And then coming back to them, as you want to be able to continue to learn different and new things.
That's very interesting because, some people say a year or two, but it's interesting that you're saying 6 months and then go on your own and just test it out.
Yeah, you have to be able to get that ROI. If you're constantly being coached, then how are you doing? right? Like, it's just like we go to school. Everything that we've learned in the classroom, we got to eventually apply, outside the classroom where our teachers aren't there. And the coach is there to be that learner up front, but they're also there to be on the sidelines waiting when you do have a tumble or where you are looking to gain something that you don't know. But I think, to be able to work with a coach for a year or two, you're not going to learn. You're just going to hear a lot of things, but we actually need to see how you apply them. And then based on how you're applying them, it's going to continue to cultivate that relationship and cultivate that learning to further progress.
And that's very interesting. You mentioned learning. And most of the time when I speak to people, they say I get a coach because they are sort of keeping me accountable. But there is not much talk about that learning aspect of a coaching. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
You're correct. There is an accountability factor with the coach, but that's the effect of the true output. The true output is the learning that you work with the coach, is to understand your whole self. What are the areas that you're blocked on? What are the areas that you have gaps on? What are the things that you're trying to do all at once, but you have limited time to only be able to do X, Y, and Z? The coach is really a mirror and an objective lens and can teach it and cultivate, your learning in a way that you're not getting distracted by tons of toys. You're just continuing to focus on yourself. And I think that once you focus on yourself, the door for learning opens up all the time because you learn new things that you didn't know yesterday that you're now learning now. You see things in a much different way that you haven't been able to see because you've been blocked. And that's why it's important, because it's the learning that you get there and how you apply it makes you accountable. You can't be accountable if you're not applying the learning.
So what you're saying to us, the coach is pointing out on those blind spots that you might not be aware of.
I think that's part of it, but it just also could be things that you are completely aware of, but you just don't know what to do, right? I mean, how many situations have we been in? It's just like, well, if I do this, it could end to this. And if I do this, it could end to that. Like, we look at it as far as options. We don't look at it as far as opportunity. And coaches really bring out the opportunity into what, lifelong learning is. And it's always to keep on learning in a safe and supportive environment. And that's the whole premise behind coaching. It's been around, since the beginning of time. We all got here through other people. And some of them are really good that we learned from. And then some of them weren't good that we also learned from. But it's how we applied those learnings as to what has made us today.
And I love that you talk about options as opportunities, because it's true. Like, you can choose one or the other, and each one will move you in a different direction.
Yeah, and I think it's important because, we get blocked so many times just because we only see things one way. And the reason we only see things one way is because that's what's natural to us. And that's what we know. And it's really hard to evolve and change and try something new when there isn't a comfort level. Coaches bring a comfort level based on their knowledge and power of how they work and how they work with others to be able to open the door to new opportunities that we can't see. And it's huge. I mean, I'm raising a round of investment right now that I have no idea what I was doing 6 months ago. I have a whole team of coaches coaching me, and not only coaching me as to what I need to do, but different ways to be thinking about this short and long term. So I could take all that information and bundle it into, what is going to be our path. And so I've been given a ton of options, and now I've been able to put it together as to what's going to be the go forward state. And that's really hard to do when you don't know the basics of things. You could Google all you want out there. It's not going to tell you how to close a successful, investment round. It's going to give you a lot of ways and hows and some good information, but for somebody who's been there and done that in particular, and I think that that's a huge, powerful component of coaching, because a lot of our coaches on the marketplace, that they've been coaches their entire life, but a lot of them have also been former executives, and they have a lot of knowledge to share with other people because they have been there and done that, and they could show them what worked, what didn't work, and then open up doors of possibility that somebody doesn't know.
And coaches can actually give you tools to deal with financial situations because they might be bringing that aspects into coaching, right?
Yeah. Just look at the millennials right now. Everybody likes to complain about millennials. They are not the problem, okay? What we have is over-architected and over-engineered everything, where everything, even though we're very educated or supposed to be very educated out there right now, everything is Greek because there's just so much information coming at you at once, right? And so, if you look at financials, millennials right now are starting to have families. And so for the first time buying a home. And this is a huge thing that they have never went through before. But it's something that it's important because, wanting to make sure you're getting it right, making sure you're not wasting money, making sure you're looking at the long-term value of things. And those are big things. And that they're going through issues when it comes to student debt. Yes, student debt has been a huge problem forever. Guess what? Millennials called it out and said enough. We didn't. They did. And they're right. I graduated with over $70,000 of student debt. My only goal was to make sure that this debt went away and not even think about how I was going to do it, but just make enough money so it could go away. They're much more pragmatic and practical, and they want to learn and be educated in lots of different ways to be able to think about things so that they can make the best choice that's for them.
And they like to speak up, which I think current workforce is not used to it, right? Because they are used to it on a traditional, like they give you the job, you just go and do it and bring it back. But millennials have their opinions. They want to be heard.
Yeah, I personally think I was born 10 years too early. I love the millennial generation. They are just saying what we should have said years ago. And, I think that they have the ability to do that, not just because they're going to be the majority of the workforce. And now that they've been in the workforce for 10 years, they're doing it because they want to do things that matter. There's a huge pendulum that's swinging right now where, there's been the status quo of everything. And then there's this wave of humanity that's going on, which is just opening up the door of learning and education and understanding, what we should be doing and making the best decisions. People aren't just checking a box anymore. And I think that millennials have called it out. They're not going to just check a box to say that they did something, it did something. They're going to check a box because they did something because it meant something to them and they want something out of it, which is the way that we should be looking at all of work and all of life. We do things because we want to be able to get certain things out of them, but what are those most important things? And millennials have a very socio-economic conscious about everything, and I think it's refreshing.
And when I spoke to a few, they also had opinions about, the work-life balance. And from HR perspective, because you're an HR person, how are they changing approach to work and approach to hiring?
Yeah, another great question. And once again, so happy that they're doing this. I remember when I started work and, being stuck in an office from 9 to 5 and looking at that clock, when it was 5 o'clock. And it's not because I didn't enjoy my job. I also knew that it was time for me to go and to go home to my family. And then, as I started to get older, I'm dealing with, my family getting older and the responsibility that goes with that, along with all the new additions to the family. And life always goes on. And we have to be able to juggle all the different things of what that means. But when there's flexibility within the workplace and there's a value add to what that flexibility means, that we're all humans and that we're dealing with stuff, it just makes it that much easier. I remember being paranoid as hell, where I had a doctor's appointment that I had to go to and I was going to be in the office 3 hours late and miss a meeting. I'm like, wait a second, why am I worried about this? I have to go to the doctor. And why is somebody judging me on that? So I think that they're just saying a lot of common sense things that we just took for granted because we just went with what was going on. We went with the wave of what was normal, and the wave of normal was never normal.
So what advice do you have for companies that are still operating the old way?
I think the advice I have for any company out there, forget about all the different trends that are out there and just focus on what your company is today and what you want it to be tomorrow. Because when you go to that core of what your company is, you'll be able to look at it from a clear mind as to, what made you who you are today and what's going to make you who you are tomorrow. And then whatever that bridge is, when you take, where you currently are and where you want to go to the future, and that could be different ways of working. It could be flexibility of work. It could be adding more millennials and doing more trainings. It could be a whole host of things, but it has to connect. And I think that we've taken the cheap and the easy course where it's just this company did this, and so we're going to go do this and succeed like them. No. That company succeeded because they looked in the mirror and they know what they are and they know what they want to be tomorrow, and they're building a bridge to be able to get there. And that's what defines who they are in their culture. And sure, there's lots of different things that go into that, but it's identifying what are the most important things.
But what I like, though, you mentioned culture. I think the companies that are successful nowadays, they actually are investing in their culture and their talent.
I think we need to define what we think a successful company is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Okay, there's been tons of quote unquote successful companies out there, unicorn companies out there, but then we've been hit with headlines the last 18 months of where these successful companies, where they cut corners and how devastating those corners were. Rampant sexual harassment issues, rampant discrimination issues. We had an election issue with Facebook. When you are not looking at the value of what your company can do and you're taking advantage of that, you're opening up the door to a lot of different vulnerabilities. And so I need to understand what a truly successful company is, because a lot of the ones that are out there that are quote unquote successful really aren't. And the ones that are successful, like you look at Patagonia, they have been around for a long time. They are all about giving back. That has always been their core mission, the environment and giving back. And they have never, ever strayed from that. Their products have evolved and changed. Their people have evolved and changed, but their core has never changed.
So in your opinion, what are the core values of a successful company? And what are the core principles that they're operating on?
Well, one, the core values of a successful company are companies that actually live by their values. So forget what the values are. Do you actually live by them or not? That's number one. And then number two, I think that when a company does live by their values and they communicate that and they breathe that through every client interaction, every employee interaction, every communication, every town hall, every financial summary, every customer conversation, when those values are there and clear and present, that's something that everybody wants to be able to latch on to. When I look at the things that I buy in life, I buy them for a reason, not just because they make me look nice or make my home look nice or they make my life easier. I buy them because they instill something into me, right? I remember when I got my first pair of Tom's shoes, I knew what they were doing. They were giving back to people that needed help. Children in impoverished countries, they're giving back there. And I think that core component of not just what your values are that you breathe through your company and through your customers, but also how you're giving back to your community. That is integral to what we're doing, because you are really living your mission through and through, and it goes way beyond a bottom line.
You talk basically about social corporate responsibility.
Yeah, everybody likes to put that as an add-on that, we do this, but the companies that actually live it, those are the successful companies, but those are not the companies that are getting the headlines.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I want to I'm going to segue a little bit about, because you have a lot of experience in HR, and I'd like to talk a little bit about it. I worked for a lot of nonprofits, and we always talked about recruitment, but never about talent acquisition. And I want to get your take on the difference between recruitment and talent acquisition.
So I think we need to look at what recruitment is and what talent acquisition is. Recruitment is a process. Talent acquisition is a strategy. Your talent acquisition strategy that you're defining with the company as to the needs that the company has right now and is going to have in the future is going to determine how you go and recruit. And if you're not having a talent acquisition conversation and strategy, then you could do all the recruiting in the world, but it doesn't mean that it's going to add any value to anything. The amount of people that I see that go into jobs and 6 months later, like, wait a second, this is not the job I signed up for. Because all they did was do a job description of what they thought that they needed. They didn't talk about a strategy of why they needed something.
And I agree. When I used to hire folks, we would say, just keep it flexible, because they might end up doing something else.
Yeah, I love when people say keep it flexible, but then you have somebody that's getting paid $150,000 in a position and they're not really clear on what they should be doing. And the company is not really clear what they should be doing. And then they're saying that they're a terrible employee, and they're not a terrible employee. They're a product of the system where something wasn't thought about in a strategic way. And now they're paying the price of it, as with the rest of the organization.
So basically what you're saying to us, talent acquisition comes before recruitment.
You cannot recruit without a talent acquisition plan. Many companies do, and this is why people are leaving companies, along with the fact that, they don't have the skills that they need for the job. And not only that, fine, a job changes. That happens all the time. So when people don't have the learning and development and the trainings and the mechanisms to be able to pivot in a way that it makes sense and it's comfortable, it adds to a resistance component. Because when people get really disenfranchised with their work, productivity goes down, everything goes down. So we need to be looking at this much differently. Things are always going to change, and that should be a core component of the job description as to what the evolving, component of what this job is going to be today and what it's going to be tomorrow, because that right there is the career ladder. We're not showing the career ladder in the job description. All we're doing is showing a bunch of different tasks of what they need to do. There is a huge trajectory on jobs of what they are today and what they are tomorrow. And this is why we have a skills gap in this country, because nothing was built in for tomorrow. It was only built in for now.
So what you're saying to us, when we come to the point that we need someone, we need to reevaluate how we actually are publicizing that job. Because I remember, I went to jobs and people would just throw things at me. And I was like, well, if you had put that in an ad, I would not have been applying to this job.
Yeah, we were just trying to create a commercial. And commercials are great for a minute, but how many people really remember those commercials? Because the commercials change and evolve too, based on whatever needs to happen. We need to be looking at jobs like that, like what we see talent in someone, and they could do X, Y, and Z today. But we also know that this job is going to evolve over the next 2 years, and we need to be able to build that person to X, Y, and Z of tomorrow. And they already have a core skill set. So let's make sure that we're embedding the training and development for them for today and tomorrow so they can get there and they're able to move and evolve and change with the job as the job is evolving. We're just throwing people out. Everybody's disposable. Like, oh, yeah, they were good for yesterday, but they're not good for today. Well, why? Because they don't know a bunch of things? Well, then teach them. It's not that difficult. We just keep on disposing of people. And the thing is, you keep on disposing of people, then who's really going to end up doing it? Who's really going to end up building your future? Because when we're throwing everybody out, who's left?
And then the question is what kind of culture you have, too.
Right. This is what really a learning culture is and what it truly means. It's not throwing a bunch of L&D programs in there and checking on the box. It's actually building something that follows the working professional, every month, every year, to get to X, Y, and Z. And that's how you build succession planning. I can't tell you how many executives I talk to, whether they're in huge companies or small companies, just like, yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. And, I figured it out. And how much time and frustration and, of you and others was lost in that, trying to figure it out when you could be working with individuals that could help you build that. Again, a difference of opinions, a difference of education, a difference of experience. It's driving that inclusivity that is really important. And I think that we could all figure things out, but we all figure things out at different levels and different time periods. And that is really hard to capture. And it's one of the things when you look at school systems, like, that, their classroom styles, like these classes every single hour, and you're going to get these learnings. And then there's kids that do really well at that. But then there's a lot of kids that don't. I was terrible. I was terrible at tests. That didn't mean that I wasn't smart. It meant that I learned differently. We just have to look at it that way. Mm-hmm. Meet the person where they are and how you can build a path with them and what you need for tomorrow with your company.
And I love that you mentioned inclusivity because one of the questions that I have for you is how does being inclusive leader helps your leadership?
Well, one, I learn so much from my team every single day and from our advisors and from everyone. Like, I would be nothing without them. Let's just put it that way. I had no idea how to run and operate a business a year ago. I do now, and I'm going to do it better tomorrow as I continue to learn from the team. And I think their difference of thought and their difference of background and their difference of experience and their difference of just how they internalize things and how they see things and what their perception is and how that marries with reality is so important. It's so important because if your perception of reality is off from theirs, then something's wrong because your perception of reality is never going to be what you aspire to be or what you want to sell or what you want to do. And so it starts with the team. And so I'm considered to be the head coach in the company, but the head coach is always being coached.
And some CEOs, they would tell me, I have to keep my boundaries because if so many people are giving me all these advices, I might be confused to which way I want to go. What do you say to that?
I go with a couple of different things. And one is the proof is always in the pudding. I get tons of advice every single day from really smart people that are reputable and all that fun stuff in between. And then I get really good advice from just the average person. And it's about taking the components of that advice and applying it to what you're doing and how you're going to do it, which makes sense and which you trust. And I think that I trust a lot of the people that do give me advice, but it doesn't mean I always take it. What I do is I take tidbits of, where my passion is and where I see our opportunity is and how those advice components can be able to build into that and where they're going to marry. And I always go back to the heart of it. What is my core? What are we doing here? Where do we want to go? And how are we going to get there? And the advice that I'm getting, how does that mold into that or not mold into that? And I think that where it molds in, it's complementary and it continues to give you that confidence and that boost. But where it doesn't mold, it's always a good objective lens as to something you might be missing and for you to evaluate. So don't look at the advice as confused what to do. Look at the advice as what maybe are you missing that has been a blind spot that you can now see now that you may not need to focus on right now, but it's something that you want to keep in the back of your mind as to how you want to focus on as you further evolve.
And for that to do, you have to have a great listening skills. And from someone who comes from a coaching background in HR, can you talk to us a little bit about listening skills and why it's important to actually listen and not talk while you're listening?
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about listening and what it means. And I think the biggest thing that I have found is that, one, I always listened as a kid because I was intimidated by everything. I was bullied by a lot of people. I'm still being bullied by people as an adult, but whatever. But, I was afraid to use my voice. And so I had already a huge vantage point in the listening because I was listening to everything that was going around me. I was listening and trying to understand and trying to navigate what I needed to do next. And so that was important because it shaped my vision as to how I could be a confident person. And I think the other thing that's important, and when I do talk, I'm a loud talker, but I'm also a former swimmer. And I know that I completely messed up my ears swimming. And so where that story leads to is that where I am not talking, I'm listening very critical to what you're saying. And, I'm trying to making sure that I'm capturing everything because I do know that I have an ailment and making sure I'm not missing anything. And so I'm honing in on it even more. And so, and a weird part is that my ailments as far as being bullied and, where my ears are right now has actually helped me because it made me use my weaknesses as a strength to be able to listen and get to learn from others. And I think that is the way that everybody needs to look at it. They may not have an ailment that makes them listen more like I do, but they do have an opportunity when they do listen as far as what they can learn about somebody and what they can do. When you don't know how your team is doing and how your team is feeling, you're never going to be able to get to that end goal. And the most important thing, when you open up a team meeting is how are we all feeling? What's the current temperature of the room? What's your emoji? Why do you feel that way? And it's a good starting point as to where the team is and where you need to be able to go with them. So I think listening is just about knowing. And the only way that you can know is by asking and then listening to what those responses are so you can figure out where you need to go next.
I like that because, I used to have a boss who would ask us how do we feel, but then he would just continue talking. And you just kind of found it very pointless. Why would he even ask? Because you didn't even care. But what you're saying to us, ask and really care to hear, right?
Yeah, it's important. I mean, the other thing is that, remember, people digest information different ways. And so while he asked you how you were doing and he just kept on talking, it doesn't mean that he's not going to get back to it. He wants to be able to digest. I'm very quick on my feet. And so when I hear things, I know how to respond. I always call myself, I'm an offensive player, not a defense player. But certain people, when they get feedback, that they want to look at it and they want to be able to digest it and see all angles of it before they come in and do X, Y, or Z. They're a different person. And then that's why not only do leaders need to meet employees where they are, employees need to meet where leaders are. And the biggest thing when I look at people and when people look at me, are they coachable? And is there passion? Is there that fire? Is that their determination? Is there that willpower? Because if there is, anything's possible. When they're not coachable and they only care about themselves, that's not going to work. But just keep in mind, everybody hears and understands and deals with things differently. And the only way to be able to know that, and what I'll coach you is that when your boss just kept on talking, did anyone ever call them out? Be like, hey, did you listen to us? How do you digest information? What's going to be the return of us giving you this feedback? Ask those questions up front.
But what do you say to folks, firstly, that are afraid to speak because they feel like, it's not in their place to say that? And the second is they already have made up their mind about this particular boss. And they're like, oh, here's just the way it is. They just roll their eyes and say, okay, we're just going to go along with, whoever he is or she is.
Well, for the first question, I think that questions with best intention behind them are always fine. We're just human to human. Who cares what your title is? You're asking a question with a best intention behind it, potentially looking for a positive outcome. And so I think that as we look at being afraid, don't be afraid. Poise it in a way that you're just being genuine and authentic and want to know. I'm very direct, if you haven't figured that out. And that works with some people, but it does not jive with others. And so, I've had to alter that a couple of times, not because I want to or because I have to. It's because it's a desire to be able to understand this person inside and out so that I know what I need to do next. And if you don't know that person, it's really difficult for you to figure out what to do next. And that goes into your second question. We box people out every single day. They're annoying. They're too loud. They don't listen. They're female. They're gay. It's so easy to throw something out there, and then that perception becomes a reality, and it's a false reality. What I think is really important is to stop looking at the false reality and the cheap shot and really understand the core component of where the issue is and where it lies. And issues always lie with two people. There's no issues with one person. Issues always lie with other people collectively together. And so trying to get at the core and the crux of that and to be proactive. Managing up is a real thing. There's a reason that term exists, and it's to manage up and to ask questions in an authentic and genuine way with best intentions. So you figure out, what you need to do and how you need to get there. And if you're not asking those questions, you're not doing your job. And so by not speaking up, in my mind, you're not doing your job.
I really appreciate you talking about managing up, because most people, like when I worked in certain organizations, they did not even know what that means and how you actually go about it. So can you give us some examples how you actually effectively manage people up?
It's actually very simple. I'm just me. And what I mean is, any question that I'm going to ask my husband or my dad or my sister or anyone, I look at it in the same vein as people that I work with, because people that we spend their most time, whether we realize it or not, they're family. They're an extended family, and treat them like a family. And, families fight and they have spats, and sometimes things completely break down. But if it's something that you believe in, you're going to want to try to figure it out in that way. And so, when I say manage up, it's looking at giving somebody a gift of something that they may not know or they may be blind on, and your question is actually going to reveal that. And the question also reveals what they may not be doing well. There's always communication issues within companies, and so you're getting a lot of the same questions from people, about, what the go forward state is or the goals, and, go back. It's not these people, it's you, right? And sometimes they need to hear and understand that, and through our own storytelling of us and why we're asking a question, it helps them for them to understand. It works the majority of the time. Where it doesn't work, that immediately. I know every job that didn't work out for me, I had an upset stomach before I started. And because I knew I was forcing something that wasn't there. And we do that a lot of times because we need a paycheck. We want the next title. We want to hang out with our friends. We want to go on vacation. We got to pay the bills. And a lot of times we force things sometimes that aren't real. And I think that we have to be a lot more confident in ourselves and figure out, what works for ourselves before we force things. And I don't think that we do a good job of that. And, forcing things leads us to where we are today. And we have a country that's divided.
And I think what you're saying to us is trusting your intuition.
Oh, yeah. But I also look at it from the silver lining. Every bad experience has led to 1,000 new opportunities. One of the most integral people on my team right now is Rebecca. And I met Rebecca in a bad situation, actually an awful situation. And we powered through it together. We didn't know each other. We had no history together. We just knew that something was really off, but we knew we had the ambition and the desire to be able to fix it. And we did fix it. We made it a little bit better. It still wasn't, a rainbow, but it was at least breathable. And 5 years later, Rebecca's with me, and it started on that day of me walking into a bad situation. She is one of the 1,000 opportunities that opened up from that.
All of us have experienced setbacks. How do you effectively work through setbacks, especially while you are actually in it, where everything is looking so grim?
A setback is a setback. Everybody has them. The question is, when you continue to go through the same ones. When you're continuing to go through the same setback and it's the same conversation and it's the same gripe and it's the same issue, something's wrong. And the only thing that's ever going to come out of that is change. And it's either change within yourself, change with how you're evolving with your manager or with your team, change of a future state. And sometimes it's there and sometimes it isn't. But I think that we are downward thinking people. We always focus on the negative and we don't focus on the potential and the opportunity. We always focus on the things that we don't have instead of focusing on the things that we do have. And I think that we need to be a lot more upward looking as far as who we are and where we can go with each other. Because even look at social media right now. Everybody just trolls each other. Everybody is just ripping everybody. Everybody's wrong. Everybody's stupid. We have just become such a negative society. Meanwhile, our oceans are completely polluted. The endangered species list is just magnified to 100 more animals that are no longer going to be here. And we have a split country. And it's because we're not looking at all this as a gift. Life is a gift. Who we work with is a gift. Who we, meet is a gift. And once you flip that, I think it just opens up so many different doors. And so stop looking at what life didn't give you. Look at what life has given you and how you're going to continue on in that. And I think that's what's important. We don't need to be here. Earth is fine without us. Actually, Earth will probably be much better without us. So every day, every second, every interaction, every communication is a gift. And it took me a long time to figure that out. But, somebody helped me figure it out, and thankful that it was my husband. But find that person that brings out a better you. And my husband has done that, but, my team continues to do it every single day. I surround myself with good people, and not because they like me, but because they have made me a better person.
And what I like about what you're saying is, don't be reactive. Nowadays, everyone is just reactive about everything and anything, but be more responsive and reflective.
Yeah, Twitter me this, Twitter me that. What's really coming out of Twitter at the end of the day? No one knows. Everybody forgets about the next day anyways until the next little Twitter thing sparks. Who cares? Put something out there that's going to be able to help someone and not tear them down.
So do you believe as someone who has a company that media in some respect are impacting your industry or your company or your leadership style?
Media is life now. We're all a media channel. The cool thing about it is that they all gave us a voice. The bad news about it is that we chose to use that voice to just hurt other people a lot of times. And I think that we are our own brand. What brand do you really want to be? And who do you really want to be at the end of the day? What do you want to be remembered for and why? Because we're only here for a limited time. And what do you want to do within that time? And I think that that's really important. I know it's important for me. Now, when I looked at the reason why I got in HR and I looked at the reason why I started this company, it went back to the thing that I always did well at in life, is that I just really liked helping people. I really enjoyed that. It made me feel good. It made them feel good. Great things happened for the most part. And it's why I am where I am right now. And that's my core. And I think that people need to understand what their core is. What makes them happy with best intentions? What makes them happy with best intentions is ultimately going to make other people happy. What makes somebody happy and it's only their own intentions, their own selfish intentions, that's not going to go anywhere. It's a short play, a bad reality show, and it's going to be over very soon.
But what do you say to folks that their core is all about themselves? It's all about me, like we have today in our leadership.
It's a great question, and I'm going to be really honest. You got to look at it like an oxygen mask. You can't help anyone if you don't put the mask on. If your plane is going down and you want to help someone, put your oxygen mask on first. And once you do that, then you can help a lot of people. And so when I started this company, I chose me. But in choosing me, I'm choosing to help so many other people with other people. And so we have to look at really what me means and what the value of me is. I'm not doing this to make money. I could care less about that. That money is not going to help me in my next life, nor anybody else. What's going to help people is that we continue to learn from each other and how to bring that community together with a bunch of great people that can educate people. That's all GoCoach is. And GoCoach at its core is just me. That's it. And guess what? I found that there's a lot of me's out there. And that's been the biggest validation. I'm not the only person that thinks like this. I am not unique. I am not special. What makes me different is that I brought it all together. And now by bringing it all together, so many other people can take advantage of the opportunity to be able to continue to learn.
So what you're saying to us, expand that me beyond yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know it made me happy helping people. So I did that, right? That was me. But now that has evolved to many, many, many other me's and we's. Me has evolved to a we. We have a community.
Any thoughts on generosity and leadership?
I think that we could all be generous, but like, what are we being generous with? Are we being generous with ourselves? Are we being generous with our minds? Are we being generous with our ambitions? Or are we being generous with short-term materialistic things? You could give somebody $100 and that might help them the next day, but is that really going to help them a year from now? You know, what's going to help them a year from now is that, like, if you sit down with somebody for an hour and talk to them and help them get their mind straight and steps and then give them $100 and then see what they do with the $100.
You know, some leaders would say to you, you know, I don't have time to sit down with someone over a year-long period of time. You know, I can just maybe do 10 to 15 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes is a good start. If a leader can actually do that, that's great. I've seen leaders not do any of that. Like, when's the last time you had a one-on-one with your employee? I don't know, 3 weeks ago? That's not good. If you're not making time for people, you're not making time for yourself. Because if you want to lead people, the only way that you're going to be able to lead people is through you. And if you're not doing it, then just burn the money right now.
So, you know, Kristy, you're very particular with words and language. And I would like to get your thoughts on it. Why do you think that language plays a big impact in leadership and how we lead others?
Thank you for saying that. I'm just simple. I just always go back to my background, my core, my why. And I think that I am direct in a lot of ways, but I'm very simple because I want to make sure that the message is getting through in a way that's actionable, that's relatable, and that's attainable. I've listened to leaders a lot of times, and to be quite honest, I didn't even understand what the heck they were saying. Like, all right, what are we doing? Let's just make this simple. And I think the thing is that, you know, the simplicity of our words actually helps drive a lot of inclusion right there. And it's important because it makes you relatable. I'm a lot of things. So like, people see me for a lot of other things just because I try to make it easy for them. And once again, meeting them where they are. Right? When you meet people where they are, you start to build trust immediately without any exchange of anything other than a conversation.
So, you know, meeting people where they are, it's actually, I actually took some trainings in psychology, and that's where they talk about, you know, you want to meet people where they are. You know, some folks feel that they have to be above their people to lead them.
Absolutely not. I am not above my people. I don't even like calling myself a CEO. I don't like calling myself an entrepreneur. I can get comfortable with calling myself the head coach. I go back. I am nothing without the people that I have met over the years, good, bad, and ugly. They have all made me into where we are right now, and there's still a ton of room for improvement. And I'm not going to improve without the help of others. My ego has always been in my back pocket. I have a subject matter expertise, and yes, I'm very passionate about things, and yes, I can be very bullish on things, and yeah, you know, there's certain things that I will not listen to, but I will always listen to my team. I will always listen to people who care about me. I will always listen to people that are helping other people because I know their intention is there.
So what you're saying to us, you have to sort of determine who are you listening to.
Yes, I met somebody today and they told me a pretty powerful story. I don't know this person from Adam. And I listened to a lot what they said, and I've been thinking about it, and I've been thinking about their story, and I've been thinking about not only how I could help them, but how they could help themselves. So I think just look at things from the best and the right intentions, and it will go far. And you know immediately if it's not from the best of the right intentions. I think that we need to go with our gut a lot more than we say. I think that a lot of times we overanalyze everything and we overprocess everything. That's why we're over-teching everything right now. I mean, what isn't teched out right now? Like, I would like to see a mobile application out there about what's going on with our oceans and with our animals, and with, you know, the fact that there's a lot of homeless people that need jobs and need food. Where are those applications? Where are those apps? Because that's what I would like to see. And so I think that we just got to focus on what's in front of us. And we do that, it can get us to a lot more things that are not in front of us that we never even thought that we can get that blind ambition turns into something that you never knew. I never knew I was going to do this. I never thought for a second that I was going to be a leader of a company. Not 1 second. What I always knew was that I was going to help people. And now this is the capacity that I'm doing it in.
When I was studying NLP, we always talked about holding on and letting go. Like what you're saying, analyze, but don't kill it with analysis. So what are your thoughts on that? How do you balance holding on and letting go? In other words, analyzing, but don't kill it with analysis, or telling people to do their job, but not hovering over while they're working.
Right. Are you familiar with the term Occam's razor?
No.
So I had the privilege to go to a Jesuit school. My parents worked many jobs to make sure that I could go through a Jesuit school. And basically, it's a problem-solving principle that the simple solutions are more likely to be correct than the complex ones.
Oh, interesting.
That's all it is. And so, in other words, if it looks like a duck and it acts like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
So that's your answer to holding on and letting go, right?
Yeah, like there's certain things that I totally overanalyze at the points, but like there's not a lot of them. I use Occam's razor for a lot of different things that out there. There's always going to be exceptions to that. There's always going to be wacky stuff that happens. But at its core, we're pretty simple people, whether we want to admit it or not. And even though we have advanced this world and evolved this world in lots of different ways, we are just still simple human beings that just want to be loved and cared for and do good things. In my mind, try to help as many people as possible. And that's the majority of the society out there. There's more of us than there is of them. That's the way that we need to be looking at life. And when we see that, and we see that, when you bring all the good people together, so much can happen. There's only 2 boxes in life. Are you a good person or not? Who cares what our gender is? Who cares what our race is? Are they a part of us? Yes, but they are not who we are. It's just what we are. Look at the person as who they are. And, Occam's razor comes in very handy. It's very clear.
But it's so interesting because, I learned that everything is gray. And what you're saying to me that in some respect, everything is either black or white.
It does get you out of the gray. We play in the gray every single day. It helps to get you to what is black and white. And I think that black and white is the old expression. It's good and not good. That's it. That's where we are right now as a society.
Do you think that looking at things black and white, that helps you lead people better or not?
So let's use the boxes of what's good and what's not good instead of black or white. And I do think that does make me a better leader and makes us a better everything. I know one thing definitively about everybody on my team. They're a good person. I know that. I don't dispute that. And good people lead the good things and good intentions. And yeah, sure, there's a ton of things that we all need to learn, me included. If they're a good person, and going back to if they want to be coached, if there is coachability, and there is that willpower, and there is that grit, and there is that determination, and there is that desire, it's fine. It's all going to work out. Just give them the skills that they need because you know what? They already have the pure DNA of what you can do. And just applying skills, learning a new code, check. Easy. Learning a new way of writing, check, easy. Learning a new way of communicating, check, easy. Learning a new way of building a product roadmap, check, easy. It's what we do with those skills and how we infer them and how we utilize them and how we bring it about to the greater population in a way that works for as many people out there as possible with good intentions is what really goes back to what we're all trying to do. And I'll use the example of Patagonia again. They have a bunch of really awesome clothes that are really good in cold weather. They don't promote that. They promote the fact that right now our environment is terrible. And they're here to help. And by buying their fleece, which I will, I know that it's going to go somewhere to be able to help clean up our environment.
I agree. Patagonia is very good with storytelling. They tell stories that really kind of make you think about life, right?
It's not a story, it's reality.
True, reality, but they know how to put it so that you get connected to it.
Yeah, no, but you're right. Storytelling is important because it is reality, but it's a reality and that's what's real. And that's why they're doing it. And that's why they have a lot of other people helping them do it together. Yeah, are they going to have something's going to mess up with something with one of their products where a button isn't in the right place or a zipper isn't in the right place? Yeah, sure, they'll fix it. They'll figure it out. It's not a big deal because you know what? People are believing in what they're doing beyond that zipper being broken.
So do you believe that storytelling makes you a better leader?
I think it makes you a real leader. Being authentic, being who you are, telling people about your experiences, telling people about your why, telling people about your identity. It's all important because they know where you're coming from. But using it every single day, no. Forget about what you are and focus on who you are and who you want to be with other people. I'm not going to sit here and tell my story over and over and over until the cows come home. Like, you know what I mean? That's boring. What I am going to tell is the story of us and what we're building right now, because that is 10 times more powerful than me, because I am only one person. And now I have a team of so many other people that are amplifying that mission to be able to go out and do that. And that's what matters. What the best part about being a leader is when you no longer matter, because you know you did a good job.
So that actually leads me to my next question, which is, how does staying humble enhance your leadership?
I think most people are humble people. They just don't like to talk about it. I know I'm humble, and I know there's a lot of other people out there that are, but they lose the humbleness with whatever the next new shiny toy is. And you know, entrepreneurs are classic at this. Like, yeah, we're doing great. Now we're going to do all these things and flip everything over. And yeah, it's going to upset some people. It's going to disrupt our operations, but we're just going to do it because it's going to make a lot of money. Well, okay. Yeah, you could do that. And you probably will make money, but at what cost? Staying humble, I think, is just going back to your core and telling people about it. One of the things that I always say, you know, when I send my team a message is happy, humbled, and honored, the 3 H's. And now the 3 H's has become the tagline for every time they send a message out to the team. And it wasn't intended to be a tagline. It was intended to let them know how I felt. But now I know it's not a tagline. I know now in every message, and I see that that's how they feel.
But it also seems to me that if you're a happy person or if you exuberate that joy, that kind of helps you lead people better, right?
I'm a happy person now, probably the first time in a long time. I became a very happy person when I met my husband because he made me a better me. And now I'm even a happier person when I've met all these people and we're doing what we're doing. But no, I was not a happy person. I let the rocks of life weigh me down. And the silver lining is that somehow people still liked me and people still believed in me and they saw something and they made me better. But yeah, I'm happy now because I just get to be me. Going back to your question earlier, like, you know, people are afraid to speak up to a leader. I was there. I was petrified speaking up to my first leader. Even though what I knew this individual was saying was absolute lunacy, I sat there and I didn't do anything because I was afraid. And then I went home and then I stressed about it because I didn't say anything. And then I questioned what I was doing and then I questioned who I was working for. And then I questioned my entire life, all because I didn't say something. I added that stress by not asking the question. I added that stress by not making a statement. I added that stress by not doing what I needed to do. And so just go back to basics. Ask the question. Don't be afraid. Look at it as a learning opportunity.
So what do you say to folks that are miserable, that are not happy, and they have lack of meeting your husband? What advice do you have for them to turn that experience or turn their life around where they can actually feel happy and joyful and productive?
Find what makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy is going to make you productive. And it's going to make you joyful. And it's going to make a lot of other people happy and joyful. And those are hard decisions. It's not easy. Sometimes happiness comes at a cost that you don't have a job for a long time. Sometimes happiness comes at a cost that you have to walk out of a household and your kids are there, but you can no longer be in that household because it's not making you happy. A lot of times happiness comes at a cost. But once again, if you're not happy, how are you going to make other people happy? Go back to the oxygen mask. Go back to that mask. If you do not help yourself, you're not going to help anybody else.
Any thoughts for women leaders?
There's a lot of thoughts I have around women leaders. I am thrilled and excited what is going on with the momentum of, you know, female founders making a rise, female leaders in the industry making a rise. I think it's amazing. And I'm so happy, you know, to be part of that. But I do, you know, ask women to take a look at themselves. So do they see themselves as a woman first, or do they see themselves as themselves first? When I go about doing business, I don't think of myself as a female per se. I think of myself as Kristy. And yeah, I'm a female. And yeah, there's times where like, you know, I mean, like I was in HR for a long time. I was the only female leader at the table for a very, very, very long time. And you know what? I didn't care anymore. And the reason I didn't care is because I was influencing a bunch of guys to look at things a different way and do things a different way. And we got to different places. And you know what? All of a sudden, no longer was I the only female on the team. There was other women there. And that started with me by working and communicating and influencing and inspiring and educating others so that we can get, to where we are today. It did not start with saying, wow, I'm the only female leader in this room. This is ridiculous. You're already starting out with a negative. I took it as an opportunity. Yeah, I am the only female leader, and this is the influence and impact that I can make, and this is where we can get to. And it opened up a ton of doors. And so I think the other thing is that history repeats itself. I mean, I just wrote an article for female founders for them to make sure that they're driving inclusivity and not exclusivity of who they are. And, you look at Susan B. Anthony and she's a game changer of everything that she did. She aspired for women's rights, but guess what? She only aspired for white women's rights. She didn't care about any other women.
I did not know that. I thought she was actually aspiring for everyone. That's what I understood.
Nope. I did not know that either. And when I was writing an article and I was cross-referencing and putting in the references, to why I was writing the article with links and all that, I came across an article of Susan B. Anthony. And yes, she's done an amazing job. But at the same time, she only cared about white women. And, there's a lot more women out there than white women. So while she was driving diversity and inclusion, it was still exclusive. Now, granted, this was also a long time ago where, we were in a much different place. And so if I had to take a look at it, she was probably doing what she can do and what she knows. Right. And so not taking anything away from what she's done for women. It's extremely powerful. But we're in a much different place right now. Let's not be Susan B. Anthony. Let's just be who we are.
That's very interesting.
Much different place. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what is your mission in life?
Help others. Very simple.
And do you think that you can change people's life or one person's life in 20 seconds?
No, that's not real. You can't change anybody's life in 20 seconds. When you have a relationship with somebody, yes. When you don't have a relationship with someone and you build one, there's a potential. We all have to work at relationships and we have to work with each other. And that will never happen in 20 seconds.
Do you think you can make an impact?
I know I have. One of the reasons I started this company was that I would leave jobs and everybody that I used to work with would still call me asking for advice and counsel. I did that for about 10 years. I didn't charge anyone. And then it dawned on me, I was just like, wait a second, I'm actually good at what I do. And I could amplify me with a lot of other people that can do the same thing. And we can help a lot of other people. So I went into this with the confidence that I already helped a ton of people and I knew what that meant to them and I knew what it meant to me. And, now let's just bring all the other good people together that enjoy doing this too. And doors are going to open, possibilities are going to happen, people are going to get educated, and we're going to have a lot of fun along the way.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think that this has been awesome, and kudos to you. I definitely hope that whoever listens, that I'm just being me, and I think that that's what we all should look to do, is just be yourself and see where yourself can take you. We are our own greener pasture. Everybody likes to go to different jobs because things aren't working out, but when you look at the greener pasture within yourself, anything is possible.
So how can people learn about GoCoach or contact you or your team?
So we got a wonderful website out there with our transparent marketplace, and the domain is gocoachgo.com. Then, I'm Kristy, and the people can easily access me through the website along with my team and on LinkedIn. We're here to help anyone. Anyone that's looking to be coached, just connect with us on the website and we'll get you the help that you need. And we will make it affordable, we will make it accessible, we will make it relatable, and we will make it empowering for you.
Wonderful. Well, that's very exciting. Thank you so much, Kristy, for being a guest.
Thank you so much. You're awesome, and I'm thrilled, and I can't wait for us to reconnect again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our special guest was Kristy McCann Flynn, the founder and CEO of GoCoach. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Leadership with Biana Kovic Show. Remember that you're all leaders in your own rights, and the impact that you're meant to achieve starts with small acts of kindness, curiosity, and generosity. Please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you again, and until next time.